Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to Houselights, specifically Wing of King Arthur. That's right, we are continuing our series of looking at a character analysis of the Arthurian legend of King Arthur and how each director has their own unique take on that character. And so today we are talking about Jerry Zucker's take with 1995's First Night. And that's right, the Jerry Zucker, the the person known for Ghost and Airplane and Top Secret and films like that, did First Night. So this was kind of a departure for him.
I didn't realize he had done that.
Yeah. I am your co-host, Tristan Riddell, and with me, as they always are, is John Mills and Darren Moser. Darren, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's you were talking about the wide variety, and I'm just thinking back on the last few weeks, and oh boy, have we gone up and down and sideways with this legend. But it was really interesting jumping from an 80s picture to a 90s, like literally a decade of filmmaking changes, effects, all sorts of things. So and a different telling of the story, yet still beautiful Lancelot, always beautiful Lancelot.
John.
Yes.
John.
That's me.
I am so excited to talk to you tonight.
I know you are.
I am genuinely excited. For those of you who don't know, actually none of you know, because unless you're, wiretapping our phones, but John and I have been texting about this movie.
Yes.
Because
very true.
Normally we play it coy when we talk about First Night, when we talk about a movie. And about like when we're on the podcast, no one is really showing their hand.
We save it for the show.
We save it for the show.
Try not to show too much leg.
And at the beginning of the show, we usually just kind of talk about what we know about the movie when it was the first time we watched it, and you don't really get how we feel until maybe the middle of the show, or even sometimes towards the end.
Yeah, that's true.
But
sometimes towards the beginning. Sometimes people drop a hat at the beginning.
Occasionally.
It's rare.
But we try
it's
not
rare.
to. We try
sometimes,
not to.
like this movie starring Sean Connery, Richard Gere, and Julia Ormond.
Mm-hmm.
And John, instead of asking you when you first saw this film, I'm going to ask you, when did you first fall in love with this film?
I would say the better question is, when is the last time I'll ever watch this film? And I can tell you it's both the first time that I watched this film. This, Darren, you mentioned there, you go, oh, well, we see the 80s versus the 90s. And I wasn't a particular fan of Excalibur. It's right at that bridge. It has that 70s.
We said a lot about it should have been
vibe.
70s. It was a 70s stuck
it's
in
81.
an 80s.
It's right there. This is definitely mid 90s, and this definitely, if there's an aroma of 90s film and somebody were to say to me, what does a 90s film smell like? I'd be like, I would pull First Night off the shelf and I'd waft it underneath their nose. And I'd be like, that is what a 90s film, that's the essence of it right there, where you have, okay, we're in the wing of King Arthur. Obviously this is actually Lancelot's movie and everything.
Called First Night, yeah.
Yep, because they couldn't afford Sean Connery for more than they had him, I guess. And it is one of those things where this very much has that the concept of a hero changed in the 90s. It does every decade. Like it gets refined, it reflects, sort of the cultural lean of the time. Perfectly normal. But this definitely was not an era where I enjoyed too many hero movies. You have your exceptions like Braveheart and stuff like that, but First Night would definitely fall into the category of I didn't care for the main character nor how he was portrayed, because it was very, for lack of a better term, boy band. And so that's the footing I'm coming off of.
Boy band.
Oh yes. Oh yes. This is a Lancelot who would have been listening to Backstreet Boys while he was practicing his sword maneuvers and stuff like that.
Well, this movie came out, in 1995. We had some heavy hitters. We had Batman Forever. We had Casper. Billy Showgirls, Tu Wong Fu,
You're
Clueless,
making John's point right now.
Tommy Boy,
Trying to. Yeah.
Mortal Kombat. So yeah, I mean,
God help me. I like Mortal Kombat more than I like this movie, and I admittedly have a soft spot for more. I do. I have a soft spot for Mortal Kombat.
I was gonna give you some rope until that moment. Okay, so you snapped it back real hard.
I'm saying I have a soft spot for Mortal Kombat. It's a movie that I like more than I should because it's just
all right.
It was part of the Mortal Kombat craze, and so every time I watch it, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I remember that. But of the ones you went down there, probably Tommy Boy was the one I liked most.
95 was an interesting year for movies. Darren, when was the first time you watched this film?
This week. I think both John and I, it's our first time catching this movie.
Oh, that's so awesome because I have enough nostalgia for all of us.
Yes.
Now, Darren, you always make the joke, it's either a movie I've never heard of or it's a family favorite.
I do, and I'm guessing family favorite.
Oh, good Lord. This was very much a family favorite. Like we had this on VHS. We watched it all the time. And I actually texted my parents as I was watching it. And there was something that we always did when we watched it, like towards the end with the final battle, when people were getting maimed left and right and getting bolts in the chest and everything. And we would try to track how many round table knights got injured. And we're like, oh, okay, that one's okay. That one got a bolt to the side, to the liver. He's probably okay. Like, oh, that one just got one to the arm. He's probably okay. And that's how into the movie we were. Like we were just like, looking at it from that angle and, analyzing everything. And just like, we would have jokes about this movie. We would reference it all the time. So yeah, this was something I was minorly worried about watching, although I watched it not that long ago, but like when I watched it in preparation for this podcast, I was like, okay, Tristan, you got the nostalgia goggles on, put your big boy pants on as well when you watch this, put your podcaster's hat. I had the full,
put your asymmetrical shirt on.
Yeah.
It's a sacred duty. We take this very seriously. Yeah. Like we prepare ourselves. There's a whole ritual of ablutions and breathing exercises so that we watch the films in preparation.
Sacred oil on the walls as well as the forehead. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, yeah. And so I tried to do all of that in preparation for this to like say like, okay, if there's flaws, find them. If there's glory, praise be to he. So yeah, it was this was a struggle back and forth trying to make sure that my like adult Tristan didn't trample childhood Tristan and vice versa. So one thing I want to talk about first is, I know this is a director's podcast, but before we get into Jerry Zucker and his direction, because John, you kind of hinted at it with it being super 90s and super 95. I want to talk about the cast first, because this cast I think is quite unique in it's got some heavy hitters, especially for the time, because you got Sean Connery as King Arthur, an older King Arthur. And you have Richard Gere as Lancelot, Julia Ormond as Guinevere, Ben Cross as Malagant, the big baddie, and you even have
straight out of the 90s. Didn't even try, but hey, his look was very like non-period, but he
didn't have to give up any other roles for his haircut, sort of thing. He didn't have to put anything on delay.
It's the haircut, is what I mean.
Yeah.
So apparently, like Prince Malagant, it was almost went to, or I should say, like it was like Ralph Fiennes was considered, and Jeremy Irons was considered, and I was like,
Jeremy Irons, like just put him
you
in
could
anything.
Totally see that.
Yeah. He wouldn't even need to fight. He'd just show up and creep everybody out.
Yeah,
it would work perfectly, especially in the 90s.
He would be like it would be like Apocalypse Now, where he doesn't even read the script. He just starts talking, and they work it in.
How old was Jeremy Irons in 95? I'm just, because I'm more used to him being older now. I almost feel like I want Jeremy Irons, but I want old Jeremy Irons, because I kind of like the dynamic of, older Sean Connery and older Irons pitting against each other.
I would argue that Irons could play older as necessary because of his voice and because of the way he carries himself. He's always carried himself a little older than he actually
Ben Cross
was in a lot of his roles.
Is a boy man. He's just trying to play king.
Jeremy Irons was 47 in
Definitely
1995.
old enough.
Okay, that's
Definitely
old
old enough.
Yeah.
And,
Give him a little gray. He'll be
oh
fine.
wait, I think Ben Cross and Jeremy Irons are about the same age.
There you go. Perfect. You mentioned Prince Malagant, and Darren, I definitely want to get back to costume notes because I feel like we don't talk about costumes enough on this show.
We don't,
That's
and this is a
directorial
perfect
choice.
movie to talk about it.
It sure is. It sure is. But I think even more importantly is, look, there's plenty of stuff that Jerry Zucker has worked on that I've really loved. Okay, Airplane's not a great movie, but it's a great parody. Involved in Police Squad and Naked Gun, some of just absolutely stunning comedies through time. Ghost was a thing. We all got swept up in the craze. It happened. Never want to hear that Righteous Brothers song again in my life. But it is interesting that this doesn't feel like there is a director with a vision sitting in that chair. This feels like this is a person showing up to make a movie and, have the script shot and everything like that. But I don't get a sense of somebody sitting down and having a need to tell this story so much as,
which is strange,
you
because this was his follow-up to Ghost. So this feels like his blank check movie. This feels like,
could have been.
I want to do an Arthurian legend. And they're like, have some money, please, give us something. But I'm just guessing. But
yeah, well, I mean, he directed this. He also produced it. I think his daughter also produced it, and his parents were in it. His granddaughter was in it. This was like a family affair, and so this was very much his movie. Now, whether or not that came across,
I would say
John,
that's what I would say. Oh, please shoot me down. I'm willing to be swayed on this because I'm like sitting here. I'm like,
I want to talk
just don't
about
get
it. I want to talk about it. No, okay, that's interesting that you bring that up because I went online and I started reading about what people think of this movie. Like Darren, you and I have talked before, and how I go to Letterboxd and I read as soon as I'm done watching a movie for this podcast. I go to Letterboxd and see what people think about it. A lot of people didn't have.
What should I think about this? Consult the internet.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't have nice things to say about it, and there was specifically the tone and the atmosphere. They felt like it should have been more foreboding. I don't particularly agree with that.
It did have a storybook feel. Like when, just a little bit, like when they're, coming over the mountain and there's Camelot, like in the most beautiful matte painting, ever. Like,
was it
for 95? Okay.
For 95,
was it? Was it?
Well,
okay.
No, John, what's throwing you off? The matte painting was fine. What's throwing you off is the
god awful blue screen.
No, it was the god awful hill. It was a fake hill that they were walking up.
Yeah.
And it almost ruins the shot.
That was very
Almost.
Once they got over the hill. Oh, jeez. Oh,
almost ruins the shot.
So positive.
Okay.
I want to talk positives for a second. I want to talk
Talking
about
a little novel
around some of the visuals because there were some amazing shots in this movie. Like when they had the top-down shot of the round table and they all pull out their swords and they like perfectly align. Like I got like goosebumps. Like, oh yeah, that is how you do a round table shot in an Arthurian legend. They're like, okay, we're gonna dock our swords into the table, and you see the one space open, and then they quickly reveal like why. And I love that. Little weird when Richard Gere was kind of like having to read the table and craning his neck. Not gonna lie, that was a little odd, but some of the battle shots, like when they're coming out of the night and all you're seeing is the glint of moonlight on their armor, it is terrifying. And granted, it's a little weird that all the bad guys are way more lit by the moonlight, and torches, but hey, don't even care because it looked amazing. So I will give it, there were some shots where I was really impressed with those moments.
Yes, that shot in particular, I really tried to memorize that shot because I started thinking, I was like, one thing about this movie, and this may sound like a tangent, but it's not, is the uniformity and the presentational nature of Camelot, where it's organized. It's not like, if you look at something like Excalibur and other, Arthurian legend movies, when you see Camelot, it's usually like,
They're building Camelot.
They're building Camelot, or it doesn't really have the gravitas that we know of the legend. In this movie, Camelot is Camelot, and it's been Camelot for a while. And so when you see Guinevere come to King Arthur for the first time as his fiance, and the very militaristic presentation of the torches, and they march apart from each other, and then it reveals King Arthur in the distance. That's another fantastic shot.
Yeah.
You have the uniformity, and with that shot, Darren, that you're talking about, with all of the armor, coming at you and everything like that, it made me think about like how easily we swayed we are with visuals and music, because if those were stormtroopers, it would be foreboding.
Right.
But these are the good guys. And
but
so
they were
we're
still
like,
foreboding for the bad guys. Like
Yes,
if I was a bad guy, I'd be like, nope, I'm out. Like, I know, even if we outnumber them, I'm just going to run and hide in a ditch.
And also that shot when they light the arrows one by one as it goes across. Like, there's many visuals in here. And so I think, John, I would love a little bit more specificity on your comment about lack of vision, because to me, are you talking about story, or are you talking about
as in like images, but more like plot?
I'm talking very specifically about, I don't get the sense that there was some sort of burning story to get across here. I don't get that there, and I fault completely the fact that there is no chemistry between Arthur and Lancelot. I do not get any sense of brotherhood, which would make the betrayal feel worse, would make the betrayal land.
That is kind of a downside to him just joining versus like, he wasn't there during the building. He's the last knight. He's the last knight to join the table.
But I just don't. Gere and Connery are both great actors in their own right, but I don't get any sort of. I'm looking at a picture on my screen right now. Screen chemistry, Travolta and Jackson in Pulp Fiction, right? You have that's screen chemistry. I need that screen chemistry between Lancelot and Arthur to believe that what's under Arthur's skin is anything other than my wife, who's 40 years younger than me, found another man who's 30 years younger than me, and, well, they had more in common than they did with either, I'm the old man in this group. Like, there's no sense of a relationship built. And I think that is a fault of the Zucker. Like I said, I have no problem with him as a director, but I don't get a sense of somebody saying, okay, we need to focus. We need to trim this down. And I can't have this. What's the point of that crawl in the beginning?
Oh my gosh, yes.
There's no point to it.
It's so weird.
What's the point of Lancelot doing the thing with the guy, where he like, he's doing, this is what I do for money.
I feel like he had more chemistry with that guy in in the first act than he does with Arthur. You're totally right.
But the movie basically starts 3 times, and by that point, I've kind of mentally checked out. And I just don't get the chemistry. And then, let's say Lancelot going and rescuing Guinevere
from the cave.
It does not feel like an organic sort of, like, it feels very staged. It feels stage play staged, where the way that it's shot, the way that it's cut, everything's it didn't land with me at all. And so I'm like, this is your big action set piece right here, where I'm supposed to see that they can't deny the spark between each other. And all I really see is just 2 actors going through some safety regulated motions on a big gimbal. And it's like, that doesn't have any magic. And so when I say vision, I mean, I don't see somebody sitting there saying, I'm trying to make this point by telling the story this way.
What are you trying to make the audience feel versus what are you trying to show them?
Right.
It's interesting because I really wish we knew what was on the cutting room floor, because apparently there was a 3-hour cut of this
I'm willing
movie.
to bet much better. I'm willing to bet that that's probably the cut that I'm like, that's the one that works.
Because I never really thought about that before, with the lack of chemistry between Connery and Gere. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong at all. It just didn't affect me too terribly much, because in this movie, Connery as King Arthur, he felt like the king who was mainly the king, and he was the one of the love triangle. He's the one on the outside. He's the hypotenuse. He's the one where like you're mainly focused on Lancelot and Guinevere. I mean, this is Lancelot's movie. It's about his relationship with Guinevere, and King Arthur is kind of just is the third wheel.
Yep.
And so I really thought that Connery and Ormond had a lot of chemistry. I really felt like Gere and Ormond had chemistry. I really did believe that she was falling for this rogue when like her heart was falling for this rogue, when her will was falling for the king. Like I love that moment when like Connery was when Arthur was confronting Guinevere after the kiss was revealed, about how to me I feel like, John, don't take this too pointedly, I feel like you might be having a bit more of a modern take on that relationship, about the whole like, how could I see, how could I be surprised that my wife, who's 40 years younger than I am?
Oh no, that's just me. That's just me being funny, right?
Oh, okay.
I'm just more talking about the
We're
chemistry.
all not shocked how the relationships played out, like at all.
Right, but to your point about Connery and Ormond having chemistry, I know this will sound dumb, but Connery had, he could have chemistry with a lot of people.
No, that doesn't sound dumb. That doesn't sound dumb at all. Like Connery could have chemistry with anyone.
And it's just one of those things where I like the one thing there are things I like in the movie. Like you're talking about his chemistry with Ormond. I think one of the best scenes for them to have written, one of the best pieces of dialogue, is when he gives her the choice not to marry him. And he says, I'll defend I forget what the name of the kingdom is, but he's like, I'll defend your kingdom anyway. You don't have to marry me to do this.
Yeah.
And like, if anything, that's why it should hurt more when he gets betrayed. And I'm like, I don't even get that sort of echo later. So maybe there's more in that longer.
Do you guys feel, because I initially, when I was starting it, I was like, okay, this is a different story. Like, I get my ultimate question is, does this break the Arthurian legend? Like, does it not work in these ways that we're finding because it is trying something different, which I think is interesting. Like, it's interesting having a completed Camelot, having an older Arthur, but like you're saying, John, we don't get the brothers in arms that we got in some of the other pictures of Lancelot being one of the founding members of the Round Table and being with Arthur and then falling for Guinevere and that betrayal sinking in. So did setting it up like peak Camelot find the flaws that when you make that change, then it's not the Arthurian legend anymore. It doesn't hit the main beats that it should. You're not feeling what you should.
Well, it kind of depends, because like there's about two main legends when it comes to Arthurian legends, and I am blanking on the names. I cannot even begin to attempt to say them, nor do I remember exactly what they were. But there was one that's kind of the older one that most things are based off of, like that you have like Excalibur and previous ones.
Mort d'Arthur. Was it the French one?
Is that what it's called?
I think that's it.
And then you have another one that's later on that actually introduces Lancelot and as a French knight. And I cannot remember the name of that one either, but because Lancelot wasn't even in the original legend. And
I didn't know that.
In the other famous one where Lancelot is created, he's not a founding. If I'm remembering correctly, and please, guys, online, feel free to
let him know.
Correct me.
Don't make it polite. Be vicious.
He's not a founding member of the Round Table. He was actually brought in to protect Camelot while Arthur is off on a crusade for the Holy Grail. And that's when he betrays. That's when Guinevere and Lancelot betray Arthur. And so we don't in the original Lancelot legend, we don't really get that brotherhood. We don't get that that camaraderie from the beginning. It's just this person that Arthur trusts because he was told to trust him, and because he believed in him. So when I saw that betrayal scene, I loved how it was shot, and I loved Connery's acting in it.
Oh,
because
yeah.
when they walk in and they're mid-embrace, like there's no like, oh my God, no, hey, so what were you were gonna give me those TPS reports, right?
Yeah.
Like
this isn't Friends where he's like checking her teeth. Oh, yep, those look great.
Yeah.
The kid's like, I'm not fooled.
Yeah, nothing like that. And so like I love that. I thought it was slow motion, well utilized. They were caught, and I love how Agravain by the great Liam Cunningham was just like, nope, and walked out.
That's drama I'm not gonna mess with.
But see, that's Zucker's natural comedy instincts coming into play. He knows how to make a character exit in such a way that it gets that reaction from us. So that's where I see Zucker's strength coming through.
I don't know if that was an intended comedic bit, though.
I absolutely will stand by that, because that is actor and director knowing the timing necessary to have the right reaction that cuts tension without blowing up the scene. And that's a really well-played moment. You know what? But if you don't want me to give too much credit in a moment to a movie like this, I'm perfectly happy to withdraw the comment, Tristan.
I loved Connery's acting in that, because like he looks like he just got punched in the gut. And it didn't feel like overacting either. Like this is peak
the
Sean
moment,
Connery.
like you said, when he gave her the choice and she chose him, and then she didn't choose him, and you're
right.
like, oh man, that is rough.
And I felt like that is where I can understand not liking Lancelot. I like a Richard Gere's Lancelot. I can totally get that, because he's a different kind of personality for this. Like this film actually got a lot of flack in '95 because of Richard Gere's portrayal of Lancelot. John, you were talking about kind of like different sensibilities and things like that. Like there are two main sensibilities, and I want to get your guys' opinions on this. There are two main sensibilities that are very mid-90s, where Richard Gere is basically the American Lancelot.
Yep.
Where he is Han Solo. He's the guy who comes in, everybody wants to be him. He's like, I got no cares in the world. I could kill you with a sword just by looking at you. And just like, I got the devil may care attitude. I got the looks. I got the bravery. The women want me. Everything like that. Like this is Lancelot. He's not duty bound. He's like the French knight of Lancelot in the old legends is very much like he's a warrior with a code and armor, and he travels the countryside, and like he is protector of virtue and everything like that. And that's what makes the downfall much harder, where all of the other knights see Lancelot and they're just like, this guy, I don't know, he's kind of sketchy. Anyway, but with Guinevere, I feel like if you look at the progression of what we've seen, like I guess we've only seen Guinevere once before, because we didn't really see her in Holy Grail or Sword
she wasn't really featured in Monty Python. That's
right.
That's true.
But she was in Excalibur. If you look at the 80s version of Guinevere, just there to be naked and just be there to be a prize to be won. And then when you look at Guinevere in the 90s, she's still a damsel in distress, but she's not an idiot. She's not helpless. She's constantly fighting back. She is
a leader of her
head.
people. I like her coming from another country, and she's just his plus one.
Well, I want to ask you guys about Guinevere's portrayal, like what you thought about from a 90s perspective.
Well, this is definitely if Lancelot is Han Solo, she's Princess Leia.
Yeah.
And it's that sort of sensibility where it's like, okay, we're going to put her in danger because Lancelot has to rescue her. but she's, playing, early soccer, I guess, or something, soccer rugby or whatever.
That's right.
And she's, she's royalty, but she's of her people,
yeah.
and
she's of the people.
She doesn't
That's right.
want,
Yes.
She doesn't want to worry too much about titles and those sorts of things. So she's the type of noble that we all in our heads like to think nobles are going to be. I mean, if you're going to have her be a character, this is the type of character I want to see her be, because it's interesting and she has a purpose other than just, that wouldn't be interesting at all. I think Julia Ormond as Guinevere is a plus. She belongs in the pros column of First Night.
Darren, what did you
maybe?
Darren, what did you think about the portrayal of Guinevere? And also, have you seen King Arthur of the next decade? The movie King Arthur that we're going to review next week.
No, I have not seen that either. So we're slowly making our way through. Yeah,
I'm going to ask this question again next week.
That next one's Antoine Fuqua, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
In the 90s,
so we got 3
this
more.
is when heroines didn't need to know kung fu.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a moment, I'm trying to remember when it was, but there was one moment where I thought she was going to like pick up a sword and help, and she didn't. And I'm kind of glad, because I don't think it would have fit. But I want to talk about, I love the boat scene, because it turns her getting recaptured. I don't mind her being recaptured because the villains were smarter. That is a brilliant tactic. Like the whole, popping out of the water and the block and tackle running back to a horse. I'm like, oh man, like that is, because all you got to do is move faster than the people trying to chase her, and you can get away. Now, granted, it seems like it's not too far to the, crazy cave, but I really like that sequence. Anytime you have a smart villain that does smart things, I'm not saying this villain is smart overall. In this moment, he is smart. But and I'm also not surprised that, again, pivoting to the villain, like not surprised that he comes in at the end. Like we literally have a line drop of open the gates, let the people come in and witness. And I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen, Arthur, if you open the gates. It's not a good. And then even then they had that forked plank to stop the portcullis. And I'm like, I don't want to root for the bad guy, but they're making so many good choices.
Strong swimmers too. To have gone underwater that long in armor.
True.
I have to admire it. It was heavy armor, and they swam underwater and held their breath for exactly the right amount of time.
And they disguised themselves as sheep. I mean, these people are amazing.
It was very
slick. We all
slick.
saw the sheep thing a mile away. That was very obvious that those were bad guys.
I was completely fooled. Fooled.
For me, like with that, like I do love the sacking of Camelot, but at the same time, like watching this as an adult, I was just like, man, was it really that easy to sack Camelot?
Right.
It seems like Camelot could have had better defenses, but it needs.
I was like,
it
what
needs
were the
to
people
happen.
doing up at the
gate? Yeah.
At the gate. What were they doing? What were they? Were they laughing and scratching? Were they playing dice? What was going on?
They wanted to see a good old-fashioned hanging.
Entranceway. The entranceway was that long, thin, really narrow path that's like water on both sides. It's like that looks really easily defendable if you really don't want people to, like, even if they stick, prop open the portcullis, you can still shoot dozens of arrows into the bad guys as they rush your tower.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a moment, even though it was cool, and you're right, Darren, that it was, there was a bad guy being smart. At the same time, it's that, okay, it's like what my dad would say,
because
it's a
the
movie.
good guy's being dumb. That's why. Yeah.
Like my dad would say, it's a movie, shut up.
And that's the thing is I can project myself back to 95 and I don't know if when this came out I would have had a girlfriend, but I must not have, because I could easily see myself getting dragged to this back then and not hate. Like this is something where I think, in all honesty, it probably at the time would have played fine on a big screen. This would have been a way to kill a couple of hours, and it had been like, that's not the worst thing I've ever seen. But in the intimacy of my home, where my wife sleeps, and my children come and play with their toys.
Wow.
It's an affront.
Jeez.
Nice. Oh man, bravo to you. Like
Thank
you
you.
get a forgiveness of 1 star for that
you.
for that callback.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank you.
I want to swing back to another positive. I loved the score to this movie. And you want to know why I love the score to this movie? Because I heard so much First Contact in this movie. So much. So many parts were like
Goldsmith.
wow, that is, I mean, I'm not surprised. It's like Goldsmith was like, hey, you know what works? Let's just keep it rolling. But no, I really did like the score overall. It was a really good score.
I'm not taking anything away from Jerry Goldsmith when I say this, but there are 2 categories of Jerry Goldsmith. There's Jerry Goldsmith showing up and saying, rolling up his sleeves and saying, that paycheck, this is what you're going to get. And then there's Jerry Goldsmith rolling into first night and saying, if you want to save 30%, I can get this for you just a little quicker if you want to do that. Like, the guy was a very busy composer, obviously.
He was,
and I'm not
yeah.
saying anything to slight his talent. I'm just, this is definitely one of those ones where I wouldn't hang my
Goldsmith was hired as a last-minute replacement. Oh, hey!
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to read this to you guys. Veteran composer Maurice, I don't know how to pronounce this.
Jarre.
Jarre.
Was initially hired to score the original 3-hour cut of the movie.
Ugh.
However, he was given only 4 weeks to write 90 minutes of music, and believing that it wasn't enough time, he declined the offer. Jerry Goldsmith was hired at the last minute, had limited time to compose the music, and was left with only 3.5 days to record it. Despite the time constraints, Goldsmith delivered a masterful score considered by many to be one of the best of the latter part of his career.
I think
feels like it's
it's
stuff he had in the hopper, and it was like, and it worked for, like, again, this and First Contact.
Yeah, I think, and again, not taking anything away from Goldsmith, the fact that he puts it all together as quick as that, even if it's stuff where he's like, I got pieces of this and I can recycle it, like, even putting that together is masterful. But maybe this is just knowing Goldsmith's work too well. I'm being more critical than that review would have been about it, because
What would you say is your favorite Goldsmith? Do you have one at the top of your head?
yeah, I mean, I would say that Star Trek V is actually up there. I think that's an incredible
that's a
score.
brilliant score. Yeah.
So is Star Trek the Motion Picture. And I hate to pick just 2 Star Treks out of there, but I'd say when I think Jerry Goldsmith, those are if somebody comes up to me and is like, you want to listen to Jerry Goldsmith, those are like the 2. I'm like, yeah, that's like the first thing that pops in my brain. So that's my top tier Goldsmith.
When I hear Goldsmith and I try to block out Star Trek, this is the score that I hear. I love this score. I'm immensely. I love the themes in it, the motifs. And Darren, I think that's probably why you really appreciate this score, because you love a good motif.
I do, and it had quite a few.
Especially between Gear and Guinevere. I should say Lancelot and Guinevere. That was weird. But yeah, like, I love the love motif. Well, you give me a good love motif, and I'm with you on that one. And yeah, I just like I could listen to this and I can picture the movie, and this was, as I said, like one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Goldsmith score. So production design. Before we get into costume design, so production design, the original production designer was fired because they said that he was his sets were too expensive. Do you think, Darren, do you feel like that money came across on screen?
Of what we actually got?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's very practical. You have no magic, so there's a lot of, just sets and backgrounds and stuff like that. Like the forest sequence was really well done. I believe Camelot's a real place, even though we only see like 2 or 3 angles of it. Mostly that interior courtyard. Yeah, the velour zigzag, it's a look. Once it's kind of, I love the shoulder pieces. Those looked really good. So yeah, no, I'd say it for 95. It had a 95. It matched.
I personally. Oh, I'm sorry, John. Go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, if anything, it looked phony, I guess you could say. Like it's fine they spent
90%
money on it and everything. Like it's just, maybe it's the way they lit it or something like that. And, costume and production design aren't the same thing, but I think the costumes are a good example of that, where it's like, they look like they work at the Blockbuster of the medieval era. And like, it's a little too, the stitching's a little too crisp, and it's like still a little too, like, it's
I will give you that. I will say that, like, while I personally love the costumes because it goes into the militaristic feel, it was a little Star Trek. But I loved how you could tell what the duties were. Like, you could tell who was a round table knight because of the rectangles on the top piece. You could tell that,
and the shoulder,
and like on the shoulder, and like King Arthur had a cross on his shoulder, and no one else did, and not everybody had the shoulder shield. And then you had other people who, like there was just there was variations
all the guards
of the same
had
field.
had the squares, and only the knights of the Round Table had the shoulder, and only Arthur had the cross. I think that was the progression.
It was things like that, and like that I really appreciated.
You
but
could
at
tell
the
there
same,
was thought behind it.
Yes, but at the same time, John, it does feel kind of modern in the way that it was made. Like, in the way that it didn't feel like a medieval epic that, like, what's the trope called, the dung era, where everybody's dirty and weird. And
how can you tell he's a king? He ain't got S all over him.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that another thing that is, the 90s saw a very conscious move away from anything overtly religious, even in period pieces a lot of the time. And so there's no mention about Arthur's sacred charge or the specialness of Excalibur.
Twice at the Round Table.
No. There's no like Lady. No, there's no like Lady of the Lake and like Blessed Excalibur with a green light on it and stuff like that. I'm saying, like, if you compare the way that it's approached in even Holy Grail, for Pete's sake, but like if you go to that
God
stuff,
shows right up at Holy Grail.
No, those
100%
are okay.
God.
You're talking about two different things. Which I was going to ask about, like, because you're talking about the lack of magic in mythos versus a lack of religion in God. I don't think that there's a lack of religion in God in this movie whatsoever.
No, that's not. I didn't say there's a lack of quote unquote religion. I said there's a move away from that sort of like sacred charge feel. Arthur, in all of the stuff that you look at, basically has like this angelic duty, like handed down from on high sort of thing. Whereas this Arthur plays much more like, I'm an accomplished person who managed to, had great skill to bring everybody together sort of thing. There's not I'm on a sacred mission from the Almighty to construct Camelot and do these things. That's what I'm saying.
That's right, Elwood. We're on a mission from God.
Yeah, basically.
That I can understand. I think I would have understood your point a little bit more if you didn't preface it with there was a move away from religion in movies, because I think those are two separate things. Because I agree with you.
Oh no,
that I think like this movie. I mean, this movie has a clear lack of magic and of God being ordaining Arthur. Absolutely. And I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you guys about that. Like, how do you feel about that? There's no Lady of the Lake. There's no Merlin. There's like Excalibur is never called Excalibur.
Merlin. You need at least Merlin. I don't know. It's very different in the whole fact that Arthur's old when all this is happening, and it's after everything's been built.
You know what? I'd give as an example, because this is an argument I got into in college with a guy.
Joey?
No. This was a fellow theater major.
Just
dope.
a guess.
Fellow theater major dope in calling myself a dope. Okay. But where we were talking about Shakespeare, and he was insisting that Hamlet's father had to have been a real person who was a spy, who was tricking Hamlet to turn against the king. Right. And I made the face. The two of you are just making visual medium. So just imagine they're making these scrunchy faces, everybody, where it's like, no, you're taking your sensibility, your personal sensibility today, and you're grafting it on to Hamlet from hundreds of years ago. No, the ghost was real. Okay. Like, it just was. You needed it in there. That was the rules of the game back then. And
you had a chorus. You had like and you're making it sound like Hamlet was real.
But in a less, in a less emphatic way, I'd say that this definitely reflects that same sensibility. It's that modern approach to thinking. Instead of, I don't see somebody sitting there and saying, well, when Arthur would have existed, this is what people would have thought and how we would have expressed that part of the story. And I'm not saying that's a negative. I'm saying every movie reflects its era, and I'm sure we're going to see it even more so as we move forward.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. This is very much a modern take, even though it's set in the past. It's a modern perspective of King Arthur, and I feel like this was an Arthurian legend movie for people who have never heard of the Arthurian legend. Like people who have never seen or read.
I'll say they could get away with this movie if its audience is people who have never heard of an Arthurian legend. Like couple that with your statement.
Are you saying that it doesn't get away with it
for
people who do know the legend?
Yeah, because I feel like we know the legend and we're poking holes in it left and right, like a lot of the changes that they made.
Well, poking holes might be a bit of a pointed from my perspective, because I feel like it's an adaptation.
True.
I see this as an adaptation. I don't see this as it's definitely not a faithful retelling.
No,
but it's an adaptation. Yeah. So it's based off of the Arthurian legend, but so is everything. There's nothing has been a strict retelling of whatever John mentioned about the death of Arthur, or whatever it's called in French.
Yeah. On the pendulum of the story, if you have the real legend or a very faithful legend in the middle, I think one end of the pendulum you have First Night with its changes of like when it's taking place and how it's focusing on Lancelot. It almost feels like the twin then on the other side of the pendulum, I'm gesturing for the visual, is like Monty Python. Like, because you wouldn't say Monty Python is an accurate representation of the Arthurian legend at all. It is definitely taking leeway, but it's kind of the opposite end of that pendulum, where this is taking it differently in a serious way versus a comedic way.
I like that. I like that a lot.
They're like equal
I think
distance,
that's really accurate.
but opposite sides.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people who are big fans of the Arthurian legend didn't like this movie because it didn't have the drama of Morgan Le Fay. It didn't have the drama of Mordred. It didn't have, like Malagant was the stand-in for Mordred, even though Malagant did exist in a different legend, spelled differently. But like you have Mordred, who's Arthur's son through incest, and like Lancelot and Guinevere running off into history. But in this version, like Arthur hands both his kingdom, sword, and lady to Gear, and then you have this happy ending where the hypotenuse is gone.
Right.
And
the triangle collapses on itself. And
yeah. And, like this is very much that, like, is this true to legend? Of course it's not, but it's an adaptation, and that's where I feel, like you get a lot of leeway with that, with the filmmakers who say that this is not a faithful retelling, because, and as we move forward with these next couple of films, you're going to be thinking about what I'm saying right now. And
I'm sure. I know full well, but coming as somebody who doesn't have a particular attachment to the Arthurian legend, like, I know the rough outline of it.
We're experts now. We've watched so much of it.
Wouldn't that be funny? Like, you come out of this and I still don't feel like I know the full thing. I'm kind of like, yeah, maybe. But it's maybe I do have a little bit of a problem too with the fact that it wraps up so neatly. Whereas like, oh, well, I lost. You get everything. Like, huh? Like, there's no tinge of sadness, really.
feel
Like it works out as well as it can for everybody.
I want to see the next moment where like half the knights of the round table are like, well, I didn't swear to you, so I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And like everything falls apart. Like what is the next 5 minutes after that scene? I'm actually really curious about that. Heck, start the movie there. That would be really interesting.
Wouldn't it?
I have to admit that was super strange. Like even when I watched this as a kid with my family, we kept trying to we looked really closely. No, it wasn't even that. Like we looked really closely at the screen. Like we got our eyes as close as we could to the screen so that we could see his side shield, his shoulder shield, to see if there was a cross on it. Because he's clearly back in uniform as a Knight of the Round Table. He's holding Excalibur. He's standing there with Guinevere. And my whole family and I are just like, well, surely he's not king now, right? Like,
but the thing is, imagine the precedent that they just set for all of the other knights, where they could be sitting
just
there.
Kill the king and become the king and have his woman.
Oh, so Camelot's just like every other kingdom. Cool. Let's figure this one out now. Let's figure this one out.
No.
It's like Fry from Futurama who drank the Emperor.
Yes.
So as we wrap up, I want to talk about the final scene, final action scene.
Fight! Got you.
Never surrender!
Fooled you!
So Malagant sacks the city. He threatens to burn it down. He gives an amazing speech.
It is a good speech.
Ben Cross, holy crap.
Absolute tops.
Absolute tops. I love this performance from Ben Cross because he just eats it up. And I love when he screams. He's like, free from Arthur's tyrannical dream, from Arthur's tyrannical law, free from Arthur's tyrannical God. Just the way he hits it is absolutely perfect. I get chills just thinking about it. And I am absolutely, like, I know it's so much melodrama. It is the definition of melodrama, but I love it when Connery is about to bow. And like Darren, like you joked, fooled you. And then he gets back up. He's like, fight, never surrender. And then as soon as the bolts hit his chest, the music rises, Excalibur drops, and then his knights pick him up and he goes, Camelot lives. And then the fight begins. I look at this.
Oh, it's an amazing sequence.
This is the most visual podcast we've had yet.
It's true. Like, oh my God, look at your hair.
I didn't know where it was going to go. I mean, again, this is the first time seeing this. So, like, to his credit, like, Connery is acting it like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm like, is he going to bend the knee? I'm like, I thought Lancelot was going to swing in kind of Vader stopping Luke from killing the Emperor kind of, moment. And he starts the fight. Someone was going to start a fight. I knew that was going to happen. Like, you could just tell where the story was going, but I didn't know it was going to be how it was. And although I love what I love best about that moment is I kind of pulled myself back and looked at it for a moment and thought, wow. So is it Malagant? Malagant. Malagant's power is the threat of burning the city. Arthur's power is his knights and his people. It's just an interesting dichotomy. Like, Malagant doesn't actually have power. He has the threat of destroying someone else's goodness.
Well,
which
that
is
would have
very
also been that would have also been something where I imagine this mystical 3-hour cut probably fleshes out more, is they very much show that Malagant's power, quote unquote, over his people comes from ruling through fear.
Oh, totally.
And Arthur has power by ruling through love and dedication. And I would have liked to see that more teased out differently, I guess. And it's, you always get into that danger of like trying to rewrite the thing after you see it, sort of thing. But like, it would have been nice to have, it would have been nice to have a little bit more of an appeal to Malagant's own people and turn them against him at the end when the tide of the battle is turning and then somebody's like, we fight for each other, we fight for brotherhood.
Yeah.
He just wants, question yourselves. And then like you have a couple of his guys like, yeah, this kind of sucks. And then like they join the fight,
I like how it was because it was, like we foreshadow it earlier when Connery is talking to Gere and he says, he's like, you take down Camelot, like it's brick, it's mortar, it's flags, whatever, like burn them all, Camelot lives on. He says that like halfway through the film. And then at the end, when Malagant is talking about burning it down, he says, Arthur says Camelot lives. And it's not just the knights fighting.
Oh, it's everybody.
It's everybody. It's all of Camelot.
Yeah.
It's men, women, children. We see some huge old guy throw one of Malagant's men over the side. I actually preferred. So basically, I'm saying, John, you're wrong. I preferred what we saw because it was this force of love against hate. It was everybody fighting for a common goal. It was not like, like I'm going to go off into the corner and the knights are going to protect us. It's like, no, this is my home, and this is an evil force trying to invade it with hate and with fire and destruction. And even as we finish the battle, they put out the flames.
It's real.
It's real in my mind. But like you hear someone in the distance screaming Camelot lives, echoing what Arthur said. So I'm a big fan of sword fights and sword movies. What do you guys think about Malagant versus Lancelot? John, what do you think about this final scene, this action piece?
It's okay.
That's all you're going to give me?
That's all I'm going to give you, because I will honestly say that there are sword fights, and this I would classify as one of them, where I can see, I'll give Ben Cross credit. This is a guy who he's trained a couple of other times, and I believe in his movement. Gere never sells me on being a natural swordsman. Everything looks very much, I'm going from step to step to step to step to step, and it's very carefully choreographed, and I don't ever get a sense of anybody being in, again, it's like a stage play sort of thing where it's like, okay, position 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And kill scene. It just feels like a dance. That's just how it plays for me when I'm watching it.
Darren, tell me why John's wrong.
He can't. Spoilers.
I will say I did feel, because the trickiness of the end scene is Lancelot is the undefeated knight. So already, he's going to win. So you have to, but you also still have to make it interesting. And there are some shots that I think they are progressing. What do you call it? Like when you're in a sword fight, you have how much trouble is the good guy in? It starts low and then it's like, oh, no. It goes back and it's like, oh, no. Visual, look at my hand. But there are good moments in that where
we got to start recording this. Like we got to start.
No, we don't.
Putting us on YouTube.
But no, there were like good moments where, like he gets stabbed in the shoulder, and that's always a good indicator of the hero being almost bested, is when they start to get injured and such. But it's hard because, again, he's been on this pedestal the entire movie as this amazing swordsman, never, because he doesn't have anything to lose and all of that. So it's a hard formula to hit. I will say I liked it a little better than John is indicating, where I feel like it did show that progression, that throttle of danger. But it's not like it wasn't predictable, with the, still not topping Princess Bride or many other great sword fights. It's not topping any charts, but it worked.
That's interesting, because I felt like this was something that we could all agree on before we started the podcast. Like,
Never.
It is you who are wrong, Tristan.
I really felt like when we started, I was just like, okay, well, at least we can all agree on the final sword fight. Like, that was freaking awesome, right? I'm still in love. I was in awe as a kid, and I'm still in love with it today. I love everything about it. I thought the music elevates it to another level. If it wasn't for Goldsmith's music, I don't think it would be as awesome as it is in my mind. But
I think it would have been funny if at the very end, instead of swords fighting, they're like, and I challenge you to the gauntlet, whoever runs it first. And it's like, that's how they're deciding who wins the kingdom. It feels very 90s, but yeah.
that would be nice. But yeah, I loved the back and forth where they going at each other, but then they had to separate. Like in Lancelot is taking care of other people as he's going through, and that's actually why he gets stabbed, is because he has to go and save somebody else. And Malagant doesn't care about that, but Lancelot does. Like that's a turn. And even though we have a movie that doesn't have any mysticism, we have a Lancelot. He's down on his luck. He's about to get stabbed by Malagant, and then he sees Excalibur, and it shines in the sunlight. And then all of a sudden, when he picks it up, he's imbued with power, and he just starts moving it at unholy speeds. And I remember watching this on VHS, which was this wasn't a cropped VHS full frame. It was an open matte full frame. So in this version, like when Lancelot and Malagant are fighting super fast, it's not sped up. They're actually moving that fast, but they just have hilts. They don't actually have blades. It's CGI blades for that.
Okay.
When he picks up Excalibur. And so in the full frame open matte version, when he kills Malagant, and we have a hero shot of Lancelot and he's holding Excalibur, it looks like he broke Excalibur because it doesn't have a blade attached to it. It looks like he fought so hard he broke Excalibur. And I remember that was really distressing to my family, where we're just like, well, he broke it? And my mom said, like, oh, he'll take it to the Lady of the Lake and fix it. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, because he broke Malagant's sword. He
really sounds like a lot of your love of this movie, it resides in headcanon, Tristan. I'm just going to say,
two things. But yeah, it's like I thought that was really funny because when you watch it in the 16:9 version, you don't see that at all. Anyway, we're over the hour mark. Indeed. My wife knew that this was going to be a long episode because I said this was going to be a fun conversation between the three of us, because I felt like we were going to get a varying degree of opinions. And I've loved every second of it. So, John, I'm going to start with you so that Darren can kind of bring us up from that.
Oh, no. Okay. So everybody promise to be my friend?
How many broken Excaliburs would you give this film?
Will you all be my friend after my rating, no matter what it is?
No, of course. I'll just compare it to your previous scores and my handy dandy spreadsheet.
Yeah, I give you heavily conditional love. I told you this at the beginning of our friendship.
I know. As much fun as I've had trashing it, there are good parts. There are good performances. It's always a treat to see Sean Connery. Richard Gere doesn't work like at all. Ben Cross is one of the greatest bad guy players in history. I love the cat. He's just wonderful. It starts 3 times, but eventually it ends. And
that's the one line really, right there. Yeah. My review, it starts 3 times, but then it ends.
I'm putting that on John's tombstone.
I will land generously with a 2 because
generous 2.
I did not. All right. I did not feel overwhelmed with rage that I watched it, but I ain't ever coming back to this version of Camelot again.
So by comparison, John, basically all Arthurian legends are a 2, except Holy Grail, which is a 4.
And a 5 if you go by my heart is where Holy Grail is. But I have not enjoyed the Wing of King Arthur too much, guys. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I talk with my wife about this, and as I mentioned before, about how this was going to be fun because John didn't. It was clear to me that John didn't like it, even though I love this movie. And she said, "Well, what did you rate Holy Grail?" And I said 1.5, and he gave it a 4. And she's like, "You'll be fine then."
Yes.
Darren, how many Lancelot wigs are you rating
his
this film?
Perfect hair? Yeah, no, it's interesting. I'm almost having a hard time differentiating the movies at this point because it's we haven't ever really done this kind of a wing where, I mean, granted, we did Hannibal and Bond and such, but I feel like this is telling the same-ish story so many times. I'm like, now, did that happen in this movie, or was that Excalibur?
It's not just a character; it's a straight up story repeat. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm starting
to
feel
2 more of these.
I know. Well, we do this for you, the listeners, because we know you love it.
Yes.
You guys might notice I was smiling a lot during this review because I kept thinking of scenes of First Night, but with sound effects from Holy Grail, like when Lancelot.
That's the version I want to watch.
Well, because like when Lancelot is like charging in, all I'm hearing is like he's running, and just where he's attacking everybody, and I'm just like, I kind of want to do a super cut of like all 6 of these together. Some bastardized, Arthurian legend that's part squirrel and part Lady of the Lake. But no, this one, I'm mostly comparing it honestly to Excalibur because I feel like Excalibur is probably the most true to the known legend that we've seen. I didn't even know Uther was a character, and like it laid it all out. It had magic, it had 80s effects, it had naked people, and everything you wanted in a Arthurian legend, whereas this was just a pivot. But a lot of things I liked about that. I think we all love Sean Connery. He just, you could put him in almost anything and he'd be amazing. And I felt Lancelot he did fairly well. If you buy into that being, I mean, it's called First Night. So I think honestly, it earns a lot of leeway by calling itself that. It is not calling itself Arthur and the First Night or the Knights of the Round Table, or like, it is obviously focused on him, and starts, in a different way. I think I'm also going to give it a 2. I think it's
what?
Man,
all of that.
That's right.
All of that.
See,
you're talking about the cinematography and the
then no. Stop it.
No, I'm calling.
He knows I'm wavering.
Yes.
He knows I'm wavering.
Do not.
BS
No. Do not listen to him, Darren. You gave the right rating.
BS.
You're absolutely correct.
Darren,
Tristan,
if you I want you to go back
take
and
the L and
listen.
walk away.
No, shut up.
You, sir.
Darren, I want you to go back and listen to this episode and compare you and John's comments. You did not give the same rating and the same analysis
we absolutely
whatsoever.
Did. No, see, the thing is, Darren and I were on such a wavelength.
Jeez.
We're flip sides of the same coin.
I'm the middle of the triangle. I don't like being here.
No, we're flip sides of the same coin. You're the shiny side. I'm the scarred side. You put us together. We're one perfect coin for Harvey Dent to flip. We both came down with a 2. There you go.
It was almost a 3. The score could have moved it to that because, again, the score was amazing. But I think what tipped it was close, but what tipped it was I don't think I'm ever going to watch this movie again. It just does not interest me. I'm probably not going to watch anything except Holy Grail again. Like I'm going to be all King Arthur out for like a decade.
Now, I'm in the same camp. Yeah.
I am going to hold this over you for a long time, Darren, because you are not being honest with yourself. And you're letting the charisma of a Malagant deter you from love.
Do not.
And you're going towards hate.
All right. So are you wanting me to change it? Are you wanting me to change it to a 3?
Don't you dare. No, Darren.
You are 100% a 3 of this.
You know what?
John is a 2, Darren is a 3.
You want to know something, Darren? Here's the difference. I respect your choice right here. I come from a place of love. I understand that you have your own agency. I don't need you to give it a 3, Darren.
John is a false prophet.
I know your heart is in it. It has a 2. And so that's where you're staying.
No.
Yeah.
Darren, I want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to look inside.
You know what? Stop deflecting, because after everything you said,
do I need to break my vow and give this a 2.5 and have my first half score?
That's not enough.
It's not because I don't really want to do that.
You talked about the cinematography. You talked about the score.
Stop. You know what? You know what, Tristan?
You
You've
even
delayed
talked about the
long
production
enough.
design.
If you give this anything less than a
I
5,
talked
I'm going to
about
riot.
shots of production design.
If Tristan gives this anything less than a 5, I'm going to riot. Okay, because after all the love that I've heard,
I think Tristan's giving this a 4, which would be his highest.
I'm saying 4. I'm betting 4.5.
I'm guessing 4.
I'm betting 4.5.
This is legitimately a 5.
Gosh darn it! I wanted to go with 5.
I can't believe you
Darn it.
changed. I thought you were gonna. You almost had it, man, and you changed at the last
I
second.
was so close. I doubted myself. That's the problem.
No, this is 100% a 5-star movie for me. There was not a single thing that I would change about this movie. Honestly, maybe the crawl at the beginning, the total pointless crawl at the beginning.
The lettering was nice, though.
It was.
It was.
You know,
But honestly,
And there were people in the background, and I kind of wondered where they went, but then we never saw them again.
who knows
Somewhere.
who they were?
Yeah.
Nobody knows who they were.
England's a big
Yeah.
place.
It
Who knows?
was nice. He set up the camera. He just happened to be there, shot it. Worked great for the movie.
No, one thing that we didn't talk about was this was edited by the great Walter Murch.
Yeah.
And this really Murch came through. The pacing, in my opinion, was perfect. The editing was absolutely perfect. This is Murch in true form. And I love the music. I love the cinematography. I love the writing. I love Connery's performance. Could Lancelot be played by somebody else? Yes. But I was okay with it because I love American Lancelot. I recognize that that's weird. It's a weird Lancelot, but I like the weird Lancelot. And to me, there were so many great moments in this where Connery, I love the difference between Connery going to Guinevere after the betrayal, loving and, and trying to understand. It's just did you give yourself to him, but you do love him. I want you to look at me the way that you looked at him. And she's in her chambers with her ladies in waiting and everything like that. But then when he goes and see Lancelot, he's in a barren room and he's just I'm going to ask the questions. It's just I brought you in here. I cared for you. I loved you and you left me with nothing. I love this movie. I love it. Not a lot of people do. And that's okay. I'm comfortable with myself, unlike Darren. And so I'm giving this
Jeez.
How dare you?
unabashed stars because
how dare you attack
I'm
my
not
friend
scared
Darren
what
like
other
that.
people
That's
think.
that's not cool.
Darren, one day you'll be
nice.
I
comfortable
better get
within
a
your own skin.
nice Christmas gift, John, this year because I'm getting roasted over here.
You know what, Darren? We understand each other. We're on a wavelength, and we can be honest here. We know.
Everyone, thank you so much for listening and sticking with us on this wing of King Arthur. We're continuing on this wing down this hallway.
Another decade.
With the next decade with Antoine Fuqua's King Arthur next week, where if you thought First Night was a departure, you better tune in next week. So thank you so much, and go to thenerdparty.com for everything.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.